Hello and welcome. My name is Kathy A, and today I thought of making some mini apple pies, and I think you'd enjoy kind of going along with me. So for major ingredients, we're going to need our apples, and I have there are 4 of these. These are Cosmic Crisp apples. Those are new apples to me, but they're perfect for pie consistency. And these are Pink Ladies. These are kind of a classic tart and sweet apple. There's so many different varieties of apples. You can use whatever favorites you have. I grew up in a household that had Macintosh apples and everything, and they went kind of mushy, but I love the flavor of them. So we have to have them peeled and sliced and diced kind of small for these little mini pies. So I'm going to show you this contraption, which is kind of fun. You can find a lot of variants of this particular device on Amazon, King Arthur, Baking Company. You can find them, I think, on Walmart and places like that. Some of them are made a little bit sturdier than others, and I'm just going to show you how to use it. Most important is to make sure your apples are washed so that all of the pesticides and wax and stuff is off of them. So I like to unravel this and poke it in here into this end as far as it'll go. So ideally, when you are putting this on, you want to put the top here and the bottom have it angled so that it's going to go through this hole. And as you get it, that back, see that? The back peeler is peeling, just like you would when you're doing them by hand. So you can see how it's peeling it. Isn't that neat? It's also slicing it because it's going through the front and it's slicing that off. If you're doing this on the table, it's a lot easier, but I want to show you what it's actually doing. Again, medium to large apples. It doesn't work on really small apples. Okay. And you're going to pull it off, and there's your apple. Isn't that neat? I love that. It's so I love this accordion thing. So you push this through, you can pull this out, and you can see you've got the core here. So that can go into our waste bucket. This is a lot of work saved, and I especially don't like peeling apples. I think that's really labor intensive. So this machine is really nice. The cheaper ones, actually, the bottom does not hold well. So when you put it on, there's supposed to be a suction that holds it on, but after you've turned this a couple of times, this suction doesn't stay on the cheaper models, and this is a fairly cheap model actually. So I'd recommend, if you're going to do this a lot, if you want to spend some money, invest a little bit in a good machine that has good suction on the bottom so that it holds its place, or else you have to hold it with your hand while you're turning and doing all the other stuff. So once you get all the apples done, I'm going to show you how to make the crust. And we have our apple syrup cooling in the refrigerator, so that's going to get to room temp, and that's going to have more of a consistency of honey. This is actually the worst part of making pie. Most of you think it's the crust, but actually the crust is pretty easy. And yeah, you can buy store-bought crust. I wouldn't recommend it. I think out of all the store-bought crust, the one that was the nicest was probably Trader Joe's. I would not recommend Pillsbury or any of those. They're really salty and artificial tasting. They don't really make a very good pie crust. So again, we got a really nice size here on these. Use this to gather up your apples. So there's all kinds of little gadgets and things that will assist you to make it a little bit easier. It's still a tough sell. See, this just came right off. So you push it forward, push it backward, and that makes the seal on the ground, but it doesn't last. Okay, here are your apples all set, and I will be back. Peel this one. This is one of those cosmic apples. These are very sweet. They're good for eating, but you can bake them and they hold their shape pretty well. This is a new apple to me. I don't know what they hybrid it from, but there's so many. 230 types of apples is there, or even more? I don't know. Maybe one of you knows, can let me know in the comments. I thought there was over 200 types of apples. The wild apples are all sour. So these apples that we have, that we use in our cooking and eating, are actually hybrids created domestically, really, to for cooking purposes and to take out the sourness of the natural apples. You know, like crab apples and things like that are sour. Those are natural apples. Okay, now that you have your apple peeled, you're going to place it here, and you're going to have one of these things. I know we've all seen these apple slicers. You're going to put that right over the top, and I like the bottom side of the apple on the top. And you're just going to push this down. I like to stand up and press down on it. And you get this kind of little apple bloom. And it's a great start for making your apple slices. I recently found this old school one that actually makes thinner slices. So those people knew what they were doing back then. However you want to do it, you're going to have to slice up 8 apples. This will make 24 mini pies, and I'll be back with you after we've got the rest of them done. Okay? So one of the best parts of a pie is the crust, and it's always everybody's least favorite part. I find chopping the apples is, but a lot of people find making the crust is the least favorite part because it's several different sections to it. And the first section is actually assembling the ingredients for it. So for this one, it's 5 cups of just regular all-purpose flour. Just putting them in there. Pre-measured this stuff to save you the torture of it. This is 1/4 cup of just white sugar, and then we have 1½ teaspoons of salt. Now I'm going to stir all of this together to incorporate it. So I like using a whisk. I think it's a great way to, I'll just let you see what's happening. Great way to get it all dispersed really well. Pie crust is actually so simple to make. It's just, there's so many ways you can ruin it. We're making our pies in a cupcake tin. So I'm going to make one set with the crumb topping. Those will be here in this cupcake tin. I have cupcake cups in here. And in this one, we're going to be making lattice top. And what I'm going to do is just take some of this coconut oil and spray those muffin containers there, muffin pans. They won't stick to it, but I like to, just as an extra added thing. I'm going to set this off to the side. And now we've got 2 cups of salted butter. And what I do with this is I cut them in half and cut them in half again. You want everything to be cold You want all of your stuff to be very cold. Straight from the fridge, not soft, not room temp, nothing like that. So you want to make little squares out of this. Not as small as the apples, but you want to make little squares that will adhere nicely. Some people grate their butter right from the freezer because you don't want the fat to get warm. It can make for a soggy crust. Okay, so I've got my pieces here. I've got my bowl here. And I'm just going to pour all this butter in. You can use a stand mixer if you want. I'm just showing kind of the old school way to do it. This is a pastry cutter, and this is the way I always learned to do pastry. You just twist, go down and twist, turn and twist, turn and twist. And you want this the consistency of wet sand. So we're just going to turn it. It's going to be dry, and since we're making so many little pies, there's a lot more flour in here than a normal pie crust recipe would have. I didn't want to ruin my mixer by putting all this stuff through that, so. I like a little bit of sugar in the crust. I think it adds something to it. And I like to use butter rather than lard or shortening. Shortening, for instance, is extremely expensive. It's actually more expensive to buy Crisco now than it is to buy butter. So, you know, it used to be an expense thing. We used to use shortening. I grew up with Crisco for pies, and that was because it was less expensive than butter, but that's not the case right now in this economy. Whoa. And this is like a workout. You just keep doing it, and this is real time so you can see what's going on. Now this batter that we're making, this dough, this will have to sit in the refrigerator for at least 30 minutes to 1 hour in order to let the gluten in the flour rest and also to set up nicely. Again, I'm just twisting, turning, twisting, turning. It's quite a laborious thing. I don't know. It's kind of rivaling the apples at this point. So autumn time is just so much fun for me. I love the autumn leaves. I always take days off from work so I can go take day trips up in Vermont and in New Hampshire so I can see the beautiful leaves and trees by the lake reflecting. I'm really into photography, so I love doing that. Okay, every now and then you're going to want to stir it so that you getting whatever's on the bottom up to the top. We're not there yet. You know, this time of year you get all the pumpkin stuff and all the apple cinnamon stuff, and I just love it. And I love wearing warmer weather clothing, maybe because it hides a lot of ills, but I like the colors. I like the oranges and reds, and I'm tired of summer. We had a terribly hot and very humid summer here in Connecticut this year, and it was terrible. I work in an air-conditioned office, so I didn't feel it as much as a lot of my neighbors did, but I'm not a beach person, so I didn't enjoy that aspect of summer at all. Okay, so in real time, you kind of see now, it is at that stage where it's looking like wet sand. So now we're going to add our ice water. Now I had this in the freezer and it's up to 5 tablespoons. We're just going to add a little bit at a time, probably a little too much to pour in there at once. Just a tablespoon at a time. No more than 5 tablespoons, or you probably have done too much. It makes the crust a little tough. Okay, let's see what we got here. Okay. I think maybe just a little bit more water and we will be there. I'm just going to stand up for this because I need to really put some elbow grease into it. This looks like dough to me. Alright, it holds together. And I didn't quite use all of my water. This really depends on how much flour you've used and the weather outside. If it's humid outside, believe it or not, the dough reacts differently. So I'm going to lay this dough out on a floured surface. Making a ball with it. Okay, you can see I have made a ball with this. I'm just going to flip it over, and then I'm going to flip it over again. I don't want to overhandle the dough because it'll make it too tough. I'm going to take my knife, I'm going to cut it in half. Now we need to make a flat disc, and this is going to let the gluten rest, and we're going to wrap it in plastic wrap and put it in the refrigerator for about 30 minutes to an hour. Okay, make sure that's covered. Press it down, and you've got your disc for your bottom crust, and then you've got your disc for your lattice top crust. We're going to put them in. We're going to put them into the refrigerator for about 30 minutes to an hour. Okay, so it's time to assemble our stuff. So what we're going to do first is mix some of our dry ingredients together for the filling, and I like to do that because I like to have it mix evenly in with the apples. So the first thing I'd want to put in here is a half cup of brown sugar. Now there is dark brown sugar and light brown sugar. I have a quarter cup of each in here. I like dark brown sugar because it's heavily kept with molasses. Lighter brown sugar has less molasses. So I kind of like the blend of both of those. So I'm just going to put those in my bowl here. We also have a half cup of white sugar. This is 4 tablespoons of flour, all-purpose flour. And this is 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. This is a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. We're going to mix these dry ingredients together till they're nice and incorporated with each other. There's no lumps and they're kind of pretty well pushed in together. My wet ingredients I'm going to add last, in with the apples. I'm going to put them in a bigger bowl so we can mix everything really thoroughly. Make sure you get as many lumps as possible out of it. A lot of times we have lumps in our brown sugar, and they will appear in cookies and things, and not so much an attractive thing. So I'm just taking the lumps out of the brown sugar and making sure all of these dry ingredients are mixed. The cinnamon, the nutmeg, the sugars. Okay, that looks pretty good. So now we're going to take our big bowl here. Love this autumn leaf bowl. I forget where I got it. I'm going to put half of the apples in. We're going to add some of our, this is vanilla. This is half to a teaspoon of vanilla. And remember that stuff we made with the apple cider? That's what this is. It's a very reduced apple cider syrup. I actually overcooked mine a little bit, but it smells so good. It is a reduced apple cider, and it makes a really nice ingredient. So what I'm going to do is stir the vanilla and the reduced apple cider into those apples. I'm going to pour half the mixture in. And I'm going to stir it some more. This just makes it a little more evenly mixed when you do it this way. Now our dough is chilling in the refrigerator, so I'm doing the filling while we are waiting. Okay, I'm going to pour the rest of the apples in. And we're going to pour the rest of the stuff in and continue mixing it. So let's mix the apples in with this. And we're going to pour the rest of the dry mixture in. Boy, does this mess up a lot of dishes. I love those. Well, I have a dishwasher, so that helps a little bit. There's lots of stuff going on in that. Okay. Now I feel, really blended this up nicely. And we have enough for at least 24 little mini pies. Let that set for a bit. Still waiting on the dough to chill. As soon as that's chilled, we'll be back to roll it out, stick it in, put our filling in, put our topping on. Yeah, that apple cider thing was kind of neat. I can't wait to taste this ingredient as much as it adds to the apple flavor. So it's a great idea. When you take it, just reduce it down until it starts to thicken and bubble. Take it off the heat and then let it cool to room temperature. And I kind of overcooked mine a little bit, so it made it a little thicker. But you want it not too thick because you want it to disperse throughout your mixture. You don't want just a couple of blobs of apple cider stuff there. So that's kind of neat. I'm going to do that again, I think, the next time I make apple pie or apple crumble. Speaking of apple crumble, we're going to use an apple topping that makes it like a Dutch apple pie for 12 of the mini pies. And the other mini pies we're going to do lettuce top. So let's make the topping for the crumb top. Okay, for the crumb topping, I started to do it and I realized the camera turned itself off. So anyway, I have 4 tablespoons of cold butter here. I've got a half a cup of flour, 4 tablespoons of light brown sugar, and we have 2 tablespoons of white sugar with a half teaspoon of cinnamon in it. So I'm just going to cut all of this together with this same cutting tool that I used to make the pie crust. And we're just going to pull that all together until it gets kind of lumpy. And you'll see a change in the texture of it from start to finish. It only takes a couple minutes to make this. It makes a really yummy topping. Make sure your hands are clean and that you don't use scented soap when you clean your hands. Make sure it's just a generic soap, or wear gloves. Because if you're going to handle the pastry, you don't want it smelling like Irish Spring, okay? But make sure you have clean hands. I always have clean hands. I have been known in the past to use gloves. Now, I have done most of the mixing with the cutting. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pinch, 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 pinch. And what I'm doing is I'm melting that butter in with the sugars and the flour so that it will create little crumbles, i.e. the crumble topping, or Dutch apple as you would call it. Now I'm just doing it until I can feel, and you can feel the change in the texture of the crumb topping. If you don't do it long enough, it's just going to be flat. It's not going to have little crumbs. You want little crumbs. So make sure you get everything off the bottom. Pinch, pinch, pinch. And I just find that doing it by hand, pinching it by hand, is the only way to get it to really get those little lumpies in it. I love the little lumpies. You know, when they bake up, they're nice and crunchy and, you know, brown sugary and really nice. Okay, I felt the change in the texture. And you can see that it's no longer a floury texture. You can create little lumps. That's perfect. That's a perfect texture for a crumb topping. We're putting that on 12 of our little mini pies. Okay, here is our main dough. Okay. Now I like to use a plain wooden roller. We used to have fancy ones when I was younger. Now we want to get this down to about 1/4 of an inch thick. That means my dough is ready to roll. So I just roll it from the inside out and just roll it. It's a wonderful sound, actually. It's a wonderful sound. Now this is the main pie crust dough for the bottoms. I do have another pie crust dough in the refrigerator for the lattice tops. Now our little muffin tins require that the pieces be this big. And I didn't really, none of my cookie cutters were that size, so I found a jar cover that is this size, 3.5 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push it. I'm going to push it into the dough and pick it up. And we're going to press it right here into the pie mold and press it up onto the sides. Like that. Isn't that neat? Okay, we're just going to repeat this process, and we'll use the scraps of dough, we'll re-roll them, and we're going to continue to do this. You don't want to touch the dough too much because it'll make it a little tough, so you want to try to not manhandle the dough too much. And I have sprayed the sides of these cups with a coconut oil so that they don't stick to the side. There we go, and we've got all 12. So we have our pie crust ready for their filling. going to put the filling in our I don't know, it's a couple tablespoons of filling, I guess. And these apples will cook completely in the oven. I know some people pre-cook their apples for regular apple pie, but these little ones cook nicely on their own. Well, make sure to fill each cup as best you can. So they look good like that. Okay, so now we have these are to fill with apples, and then we're going to put the topping on the top. So I'm just going to take a spoonful of apple gunk, put it in there, make sure we have enough for all 12. This isn't an exact science. And again, this is the mixture of Pink Lady and Cosmic Crisp apples. Both of them are pretty firm flesh apples, so they should hold up pretty nicely in the pie. You don't need to pre-bake these pie crusts because they'll do just fine in the time, because they're so small. They'll do fine. In the oven, baking as little pies, they're going to be fine. You don't need to pre-bake the crust, whereas with a normal apple pie you may want to pre-bake the crust. And you want to pat down your filling so that there's no air bubbles. You want to pat it down. It looks like we could have used 7 apples and been just fine. But you know, you never know how many you're going to cut up and how you're going to cut them up, and if there's any rotten ones, and what size they are makes a difference too. Okay. So now these are going to have the Dutch crumb topping on them. I can hardly wait to taste these because I know that the apple recipe itself is quite good. It's really hard to mess it up. Alright, so we have our apples in the little, I have them in cupcake holders for spillage. And now we're going to take, I'll put this up here so you can see it better. And we're going to put it on top of each one. I'm going to shape a couple crumbs by hand to fit on there. So that we have some actual crumbs for the crumb topping. I like a lot of crumb topping on my apple pies actually. Just want to make sure you have enough for each of the 12, and then we can go back and put little lumps on them. Okay, so I'm going to make little lumps. and just stick them on there. So we have a lot of crumb topping on there. Okay. We're going to stick these in a 415-degree oven. See how well they're done, and we'll keep going with it until they're done 18 to 20 minutes. And here are the beautiful topped Dutch apple mini pies. And I just want to show you, when you put them in a cupcake holder, this is the shape that the crust takes underneath. I've got to let them cool, and we'll do a little review on how they taste. So what have I learned from doing these? I learned that these lattice ones are just really stinking cute. The cupcake holders, I think you need to cook them more on the bottom shelf of the oven to get the bottoms cooked more. But I really love the shape of those. I thought that it really added something to have that little cupcake ridge on the pie crust. I thought it made it very unique. So I'm really pleased with how these came out. I can't wait for them to cool so I can eat them. This was a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll have the recipe below. And if I can think of it, I'll put the European measures in there, the weights, the grams, so that those of you who don't have cups and half cups and teaspoons and stuff will know how much of each ingredient will work. Okay? Hope you had fun as much as I have. I know the guys are going to enjoy these. Take care, everybody. Toodles.